Hey, good morning. We're here today with Jewish musician Sam Glaser, who's visiting the Israel Forever office here in Washington, D.C. Sam lives in LA, so he's come a long way, and just before Election Day 2016, so it's a rockin' city right about now.
Very exciting.
So welcome, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
And I just have some questions so that our Israel Forever community can get to know you. They've seen some of your videos on our website, and we've shared at least one blog about you and your music. But because your music is so closely linked to Israel, we'd really like to help our community get to know you even better. So we're glad you're here today.
Thank you.
And I'd like to start by asking, when and why did you start playing music?
So for me, music was never an option in that I was born in a musical family.
Okay.
The piano-playing mom who was always singing around the piano. Our Shabbat meant we had a nice dinner with the family and we went straight to the piano and sang all night.
Very nice.
Broadway musicals and great songs of the 60s, rock and roll and Jewish stuff from the Hasidic song festivals.
Wow,
If you remember those. So I was born and bred, and my dad's a trumpet player, so he was into jazz. So that got me into jazz. And just from an early age, just, taking piano because I wanted to make the keys move like my mom did.
That's great.
Started writing songs when I was 7, just because that's the way I think, is musically.
Very nice. And where did you grow up? Where were you?
In Brentwood, California, part of LA.
Okay, so you've always been a California guy.
Born and raised, yeah.
Okay, very nice. And were you influenced by old records and tapes? Is there music that stands out from your past?
Actually I just wrote an article about the beauty of the 8-track tape. Because of course we spun records when I was a kid, and then 8-track tapes were so revolutionary because you could listen to music in the car.
Right.
And all the kids in the audience are going, 8-track tapes?
What's that?
Tapes? 8-track? But they were music was portable for the first time. It was before the Walkman. You couldn't put a record in your car, so you could put an 8-track tape in your car. And we had a box of 40 8-track tapes that we kept in the car.
Wow.
So the article was about the idea of listening to small amounts of music very deeply versus the incredible spew of MP3s and Spotify and Pandora and whatever that our millennials are growing up with, where they rarely get so deep into an album before they move on to the next thing. We got super deep into certain music, which has its own benefits.
Right.
A limited collection, but I know every note of Beethoven's Fifth or Shostakovich's Fifth, or certain soundtracks of musicals or albums by Stevie Wonder or the Beatles or whatever, because we listen to them over and over and over again. So yeah, it's a very deep relationship with recorded music.
Very nice. And which famous musicians do you admire, and why?
Well, that's funny. My daughter last Shabbat was having a conversation with me, telling me about all the kinds of music she likes, but she feels a little guilty liking EDM, which is electronic dance music, which is, of course, the huge rage in for young people, and I'm even incorporating some of it into my own music because it's just so huge, and there's some really cool parts about it. But she felt guilty liking that genre. So I like all genres, and I try to encourage her that it's great to like lots of different kinds of music. There's nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
And I never really understood country music. It was a little too simple for my taste growing up. But something switched in my adulthood, I think maybe once I had kids, and could really relate to these story songs and the brutal honesty of those songs. So I like all forms of music. I love so many different artists, and my iPhone is filled with 3,000 songs, literally.
Wow.
I got the big memory package, so that I always have like every great rock, jazz, country, blues, classical.
Do you have a favorite musician?
Well, Paul McCartney just popped into my head just because I was just listening to a Paul McCartney song. One annoying thing is when I plug my iPhone into any new car, and I'm in a rental car here in the DC area, it immediately starts playing my collection alphabetically. Which makes me crazy because I keep hearing any song that starts with A over and over again. So I figured on the steering wheel there's a little button to fast forward through the collection on the iPod. Thank God for this link up. And I got to some good stuff. And Paul McCartney, one of Paul McCartney's songs is in my head right now.
That's a great choice.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, I know through your music and through knowing you that you have a very strong connection to Israel.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, how that began, and how you think your connection to Israel has influenced your music.
So I've been connected to Israel largely because my mother had a very positive Israel experience when she was a teenager and was sent over on an ulpan, which is an organizational trip where you go to learn Hebrew. A lot of the time you're traveling the country, plowing the land, spending some time on a kibbutz and whatever. So she did that, fell in love with her madrichim, her counselors, and she really stayed connected with those people.
Wow.
So when they would come to Los Angeles, they became part of our family.
And this is
When
way
they would
before
visit.
email and
I was a little
Facebook
kid, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just had to have a phone number. And so I was very connected to Israelis. We were also, as I said, passionate about the Hasidic song festivals, which was a touring group of Israeli musicians and singers that would come through these various towns, bringing the best of the Hasidic song festival of that year to the States. It went for about 10 years.
Wow.
But in the 70s, that was the hot thing that the Jewish communities did, was sponsor this, which I'm sure cost a lot of money, and it would be put on in a nice hall in every city. So I grew up on that music, and that music became American Jewish music. Like, I'm Yisrael, I'm Yisrael, I'm Yisrael, Chai, Oseh Shalom Dimromav, V'ha'erininu b'toratecha, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu. All those songs are Hasidic Song Festival songs.
Absolutely. Those bring me back to my days of Jewish summer camp,
Exactly.
Hebrew school. That's exactly what we used to
that
sing.
became our Jewish musical lexicon, and that was the music I grew up with.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I can
And
see it.
being that I was an early singer and harmonizer or whatever, I toured to Hadassah luncheons and synagogue luncheons and things like that with my mom. She'd play guitar, I'd sing. We were actually doing gigs. And
so
then when I was 13, I got to take my first trip and have my bar mitzvah at the Holy Kotel, the Western Wall, which, you know, how mind-blowing is that? 2 weeks in Israel with my parents, and I got to go alone without my other 3 brothers.
Ooh,
So, it was a very special trip.
Yeah.
Got to go to Mea Sharim, into this interesting little basement where we had to wind in these catacombs, and finally got to a place where the sofer hand writes the tefillin. We got to watch him finish and sew up my tefillin, and those are my tefillin. So my connection is very deep, and I've gone back at least every year or every other year since.
Seems like you're there a lot.
I've been there a lot. Thank God. I feel like checking into Israel is like plugging in your cell phone for the recharge overnight.
Definitely.
And if you get it, at least once a year, you can really stay Israel focused on God, focused on the power of the Jewish mission.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I get booked to do concerts over there, so I have this great benefit of, it's a fringe benefit of my career.
That's fantastic.
Getting to go, yeah.
That's fantastic. What would you say is your favorite place to visit when you're in Israel?
Well, I always make Jerusalem my home base. I just love being in the Holy City.
Powerful place.
Yeah, when I'm given the option, I have a lot of friends with places in the Old City. So I like to sort of be at ground zero.
Where it all began.
I love wandering around the Arab Shuk. I don't even care if it's an intifada. I just love getting lost in there, and I just don't care. I'll walk around, I don't take my yarmulke off.
Beautiful.
I just feel like if it's our land, we have to walk the land, and I like the Arabs that I meet. I'm very friendly. I walk into the shops, I patronize them. I play soccer in the streets with the kids until the parents see them playing soccer with a Jewish guy. And, I love the Old City. My brother lives in Nafla Oats. One of my brothers, I went to yeshiva and I had an amazing experience in my 20s. It sort of launched me into a more observant path in my adulthood.
Okay.
And I wanted all my brothers to have the experience, but my third brother down was a very spiritual guy and I knew he'd love it, so I waited for him to graduate college and I sent him to the same scholarship program. And he wound up within a year having payas and a nice long beard and a shtreimel on his head, and he's got 8 children living near Mea Sharim, and these are the most gorgeous holy,
amazing.
beautiful nieces and nephews I have. I feel like they're my own kids. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
so that's one of the best parts of visiting.
Wow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And which of your songs do you think resonate most with Jews of different backgrounds and affiliations?
Well, a lot of my concerts are outside the Jewish milieu because I think my stuff is very approachable. My music is very specifically American music, in that the music that I'm influenced by is the great American albums of the classic rock genre. And yes, I try to modernize things and make things sound contemporary, but I'm an album artist, and I really love that sound.
Which of your songs do you think resonate with different Jews of different backgrounds and affiliations?
So because I integrate a lot of English in my songs, thank God I've managed to find a following that's kind of cross-denominational, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox. This week I'm on a 10-day tour. Every day I have a show. Every day it's either Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox.
That's fantastic.
I went from Chabad Shabbaton to B'nai Shalom only Reform congregation for my Monday thing.
Wow.
And
I think that's why your music resonates so beautifully with our Israel Forever community, because we have Jews and many non-Jews as well in our following, but we have Jewish people from every background, from the least affiliated to the most most religious. And one of the things that we strive to come across is that Israel Forever Foundation is for all Jews.
Right.
Because Israel is for all Jews.
Right.
And nobody has, the one master key to the land of Israel or to a connection to God. It's for all of us.
Right, for sure.
And so I think what you're saying, it just ties in so beautifully. It's so in sync with what we're trying to do as an organization.
Right.
So I really appreciate that.
So yeah,
great.
I grew up not really knowing what I was doing, just a Hebrew school post-bar mitzvah Jewish dropout, which unfortunately, is the way it is for most kids, unfortunately, that I see these days. And so my knowledge was just enough to get by, and I really had to do a lot of work when I started getting more excited about my Judaism, because I had to catch up. And I have to address the elephant in the room in my music, which is people don't understand if you sing a song all in Hebrew. Which is why I incorporate so much English in my music.
Yeah.
I'll do the verses in English and then the chorus in Hebrew, and the verses explain the message so that
really
it deepens the effect. So
it's really smart.
So I think that's why it may sort of cross over, if you will.
That's great. I think that's really I think it's great that you've figured out what your audiences need to be able to respond to your music. So I think that's great. Is there something unique that you notice about audiences in Israel?
Well, it's so impossible to say because there's so many different audiences in Israel. In that I'm playing for Ashkenazim and Sephardim, and they're very distinguished there. I'm playing for American Jews versus Yerushalmi Hasidim, Jerusalem Hasidim who've been living in Jerusalem for 6 to 8 generations.
Yeah.
So every concert's vastly different. So there's no one audience there. So it may be a similar message, but
so you're able to adapt and bring to the audience whatever you're feeling they need.
Oh yeah, I might be playing jazz in the Habima bar, and then doing the kumsitz for 300 Hasidim the next night.
It's great that you're so versatile.
It's really eclectic.
You're so connected to your audiences. I think that's great. Do you feel that you've drawn a good following among the Israeli Sabra community?
No. I would say the Sabra community is, they've got their own thing going.
Okay.
They've got their own rock stars, their own music scene. I've played for them, but that whole American Jewish angle, they don't quite get that. So even if I do my songs that are spiritual songs, and I'm talking mostly for what they call secular Israelis, even though I don't like that word, because I find these secular Israelis usually have more Jewish knowledge and observance than most people.
Yeah.
So
it's sort of an oxymoron.
Yeah, exactly.
I've noticed that too.
So, but that is a subset. That secular Israeli. That's who I don't play for.
Okay.
When I'm over there.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So what why do you think, I assume that you think music that relates to Israel is very important, just based on what the music you're creating. So why do you think, let's say for an American or for a global Jewish audience, why do you think that the kind of music you're putting out that speaks to the beauty of Israel is so important?
Well, I think first of all, our connection with Israel as a Jewish people is extraordinarily deep. And I think many people don't realize just how deep that is. And unfortunately for most people that haven't been to Israel, they'll never really get that. You sort of have to walk the land to understand.
That's what Israel Forever is trying to do, is provide those avenues for people who may never get there to connect to Israel, to understand Israel, to feel a part of Israel.
Right.
So that's what we're striving for.
Right.
So through your music, it sounds like you're doing a similar.
So I try to bridge that gap as much as possible, and it's not easy to do. I have just about on all my albums, there's some Israel-focused song, and then finally, as an act of.
I love your music.
Oh, thank you. But my penultimate album was all Israel-based. It's my first one that I've ever done, The Promise.
Yes.
Which is 100%. 15 songs that are all about Israel and my love for Israel and the feeling you get when you're in Israel and that feeling of plugging in to the energizing force of our national destiny, and just trying to encapsulate that in music. I think music's a great medium to communicate energy.
Absolutely.
Better than the spoken word, for sure.
Yes.
You hear music, and when the music gets so powerful, I mean, the only response is to sing and dance. In other words, it's a full body involvement. So.
Yes, and it's less about the brain and more about the heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or connecting the two and having that synthesis.
Now, you were saying before we started rolling the camera, you were saying that this trip for you here in DC has been all about the shared moments and meant to be moments. And it's so interesting because I hadn't realized until just now when you brought up The Promise that when you released that CD was right around the time that we happened to meet.
Right.
By chance.
Right.
And when I told you what I do and where I work and all about Israel Forever, and you said, have I got the CD for you?
I said, we're going to be friends.
Yes, yes. And so it's so interesting because that was a very good shared moment. Because as soon as I took that CD home and listened to it, I said, the Israel Forever community has to hear this.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Good.
So it's so interesting how these connections to Israel work and the power they have. Which of your songs, if you had to pick one song to dedicate to the people of Israel, which of your songs do you think that would be?
Well, one that has sort of captured a lot of people's imagination is Dancing in Jerusalem, where I tried to, in musical theater, I've been trained in musical theater, and there's something that composers do called writing list songs, where you try to get lots of facts, like Gilbert and Sullivan, Modern Major General, with lots of words, and you try to get lots of ideas in the song. So those are called a list song. So raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. You can tell that Rodgers and Hammerstein just, threw a lot of, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Sound of Music?
We're going to take your word for it.
Anyway, whoever it was. So, but anyway, I wanted to communicate the wonder, the miracle of Aliyah, starting at the turn of the previous century. Something started happening at the end of the 1800s, at the beginning of the 1900s, where Chalutzim, the pioneers, were going there, breaking the ground, and then one wave after another, mostly after 1948 when it became a country, post-Holocaust, and one wave after another. So I wrote down all the attributes, the code names of every Operation Moses, Operation Flying Carpet, or Magic Carpet, and I just tried to incorporate all of those ideas into one song.
Wow.
With the chorus, of course, now we're all dancing in Jerusalem.
That's
so
incredible.
If you read that song looking historically, you'll see remez, hints, to each one of those major Aliyah moments.
Now I need to go back.
Yeah,
and look
things
at that.
like there's a quote from the Moroccan king when the Jews were going.
Oh wow!
When he said, "You go, my people," he let us go. The other Arab countries were not quite as kind. But an open miracle in our lives, and I mentioned that one just because it's on probably a dozen video sites, you know, YouTube,
Yeah.
Vimeo, and all those. But it's, I think,
Well, it's a beautiful song.
up to like 1 million views if you put them all together, and you know,
Wow.
that one's seeming to connect with people.
That's great. That's great. Now, as you know, we have our Virtual Citizens of Israel community, which are people who don't necessarily live in Israel, but who live all around the world, but care deeply about Israel. Would you dedicate that same song to them, or amongst your many songs, do you have a different one that you think would really, that you would be thinking of the global Jewish community and their connection to Israel?
There's one that I'm thinking of right now that is my song Yisrael, which then later became known as Yisrael Shelanu. There's something that happens at the in the folk process, as they call it, like when other people start doing your songs, that the songs evolve.
Oh, wow.
And some composers get angry about it when things get changed or whatever. But that song has evolved as I've heard other people do it, which is of course very flattering when people do my songs. I love it. But it's been orchestrated and people sing with orchestra and whatever. But it's on my Across the River album, and I can sing a moment of it if you'd like, even though it's morning. And when we pray, we set our sights to face her walls of golden stone. The words we say reflect the love that grows each time we're whispering her ancient name. Yisrael Shelanu leolam leolam, nafshenu betocha Yisrael, tikvat libenu hita.
Wow.
So,
that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
So, but that song is, I think it communicates a longing for Israel, for walking the land, and that heartfelt, there's nothing to apologize about. Now, Shenu b'tocha, it's in our hearts. You know, we have to rave about Israel. We have to be excited about Israel, not embarrassed about Israel.
Right, proud, absolutely, absolutely. And it's so interesting, the longing that you just spoke of, because we receive almost daily emails from people around North America and around the world saying, I love Israel, I'll never get there, but thank you for everything you do because it makes me feel a little bit closer. And I'm sure that that's what you do with your music. Whether people who live in Israel, people who get there once a year or once every few years, or who may never get there, I'm sure in listening to your music and the longing that you're portraying and speaking about, that you're helping to bring them just a little bit closer to that essence that we all feel so close to. So thank you for always doing that.
Thank you.
And tell us if you have any thoughts beyond music, how you would encourage Jewish families around the world to deepen their personal connection to Israel. What are some other ways? I know you've raised are raising a family. What other ways besides the music and bringing your family to Israel? How else have you incorporated that connection for your family or your friends?
Well, Judaism gives the Jewish people really specific devices to remain connected. And I really believe that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The techniques are there.
It's a great way of looking at it.
And it's really not so hard. For people who are challenged by lots of Hebrew, you just got to do the English when it comes time for the prayers, for example. Every time we eat a piece of bread, we're thanking God for the land. We're saying, Uvanei Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh B'mihira V'yameinu, you know, bless the land of Jerusalem. It brings you closer. You have to say those words, but you can't just say them quickly or say them meaninglessly. You have to say them with an awareness that you're eating this bread not because you're hungry, but because you want to focus on Israel. The Shmona Esrei, our main prayer, the Amidah, as I was telling my friend yesterday, I feel like they are, they're like puzzle pieces. It's like this safe that you're cracking when you take your 3 steps forward and you're saying this extraordinarily holy prayer that's really a gift from the prophets, from the Great Assembly, you know, over 2,000 years ago. 19 puzzle pieces that sort of fit a certain receptor. Praying for redemption, praying that all the people should be returned to Israel in peace, praying that Jerusalem be rebuilt, our holy temple and whatever. So we have methodologies in our day-to-day. 3 times a day we can plug in. Every time we eat, we can plug in.
That's beautiful.
So
that's great advice.
Thank you.
That's great advice. And how do you plan, or how do you get the younger generation interested in Israel? How do you bring them in?
I'm glad you asked that question. I find it more difficult these days because there are so many forces rallying against Israel pride, especially when kids get to the university campuses. So I think our job as Jewish parents in this country is to arm our children with so much love for Israel that it's a no-brainer when they hear all these other words, these discouraging words when they get to college, that they know that these people are just way off. Because a lot of American kids are adopting their platform in the interest of liberal expansiveness.
The underdog.
Yeah, exactly. And you hear the same trope being dictated by Jewish kids. It's,
No, it is. It's disheartening.
It's like disheartening, completely disheartening. So, I have a new musical, and it's called Hatikva the Musical.
Oh, wow.
And it is all Israel-based. It tells the story of a pair of children who were Holocaust survivors who were on the initial Exodus boat, the one that got turned away and had to go port to port. And it's about their story. And then, of course, over the course of the musical, they get into the Holy Land. And it's sort of a story of, not quite to the present day, but through the beginning of the high-tech revolution. That slice of about 60 years of history. The journey of the Jewish people, told in musical theater style, and I will be presenting that in day schools and religious schools throughout the country.
Oh, fantastic.
I've written a lot of musicals for adults, but this is the first time I've done one specifically for kids that's Israel-based.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I had one about the 5 books of Moses called Kol Bamidbar, A Voice in the Desert. That went in over 40 cities. So I'm hoping this follows a similar trajectory where the kids will learn the music before I get there. Their actors will learn the lines.
Wow.
Probably not by heart, they still stay in a script. My friend David Sachs, who's a very well-known Emmy-winning writer, wrote the script.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a very beautiful script, and it's a lot of funny moments because it's a heavy subject, so you need that. You need those moments of levity in the dialogue. But I've written a bunch of new songs for it, and grant pending, I'm going to have this new piece to
That's amazing.
launch.
You have to keep Israel Forever updated.
For sure.
We want to know every city you're going to be in.
Okay,
we
good.
Want anything we can do
And
to
hopefully it'll
help
get
you.
videoed and we can put it online.
Oh, that would be fabulous. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Keep us in touch and updated on that.
For sure.
We would love to hear all about it and
Great.
keep up with it and see it. We want to see it when you're here.
Sounds good.
And do you have anything else? I know you have so many songs. Is there anything else that you'd like to share a little piece of today before we finish? Any other little singing that comes to mind?
Well, I wish I had a piano here because that would make things really easy.
We can use our imagination.
Yeah, okay, I can try to do an acapella dancing in Jerusalem. How about that?
Ooh, that sounds great.
All right, I have not tried this before. Let me see. I'm going to back up so I can groove a little bit. Okay. God will provide, God will fulfill your heart's desire, take you to the place you want to go. Keep dreaming of the land of your history, and you're walking the streets before you know. On wings of eagles they took to the sky, not sure if this magic carpet would fly. And cries of joy from the first Shalom, 50,000 Yemenites coming home. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. Next came Israel and Nehemiah, redeeming our brothers of Babylon. 2,000 years in the shook of Baghdad, soon every last soul would come along. Though it seems impossible to achieve, Morocco's Jews were the next to leave. They're a pillar of the Temple of Solomon. Hear the sound of French ringing through Zion. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. Beit Israel watched in awe from the tribe of Dan in Ethiopia. Slipping through the border of the Sudan, they crossed the desert to reach their land. We marched for the rights of refugee king to help them realize their Aliyah dream. After 70 years of living hell, see the celebration when that curtain fell. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. My heart is dancing in Jerusalem. Soon we'll be dancing in Jerusalem. Time to come home to Jerusalem. Ba-da-da-ba-ba-boom.
Wow. Wow, that was beautiful.
Thank you. I skipped the instrumental sections because
I loved
it's a little
it.
hard to.
I loved it. And more importantly, our Israel Forever community is going to love that.
Oh, good.
That's going to resonate amazingly.
Good, thank God.
Thank you so much for being with us
Thanks
here
for
today.
doing what you do. I'm so grateful to be part of it.
We love it, and we love that you are a part of the Israel Forever community and that people can learn about you through the Israel Forever website. They can see your videos, they can learn about your music, they can go straight to your website and
samglaser.com, Glaser. And I have a mailing list where I send out a Devar Torah, little piece of Torah, every month, and you can sign up for that. I won't bother you more than that. And I also have a jukebox where you can listen to about 4 hours of music just continuously while you're working or playing or even putting on your headphones and closing your eyes and trying to take an amazing magic carpet trip to the promised land anytime you choose.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Of course, an honor.